Yo, what's going on guys, Kryptic TMG back with a brand new video, and today this is our first race after the update and we are around Qatar, and I decided to take the McLaren because I don't know, I wanted a challenge, and the McLaren actually felt pretty decent. I'm not too sure how fast it was in comparison to the Lambo and some of the newer cars, but I thought I would take it for a spin. So this is my fastest lap in quali and then we'll get stuck into the race.
Log building finished. Logging enabled. Log building finished.
So we managed to stick it in third. Now this race is going to be all about strategy because it is ×2 fuel and the track conditions are pretty high, and this track is definitely one of the hardest tracks when it comes to tires. And as you can see off the start, the Lambo gets an insane jump, and obviously you guys are aware at the moment that the fixed setups are broke, so I'm pretty sure most people will be running a setup. I made a few changes to the McLaren to make it safer for me, but still I wasn't really sure how fast the McLaren was after the update. It was pretty dead before the update, so I don't know, but it actually felt pretty decent around this track. It's a high downforce car, so the changes of direction, the type of corners that Qatar has, felt pretty nice in the McLaren, to be honest. But what I will say is I definitely did make a few changes just to make the car feel just a little bit more stable around some of the fast corners, but the McLaren was more on the stable side anyway. But as you can see, the two guys up ahead, they were seriously fast in quali, so I knew I weren't beating them. And anyway, the few times I have raced Kryptic, I think his name is, he's always in the Aston and he's always rapid, so I knew those guys would escape. I was more interested to see whereabouts the McLaren was on race pace, but it did seem that definitely the Lambo did have an advantage in terms of race pace. But I was looking at the virtual energy, and some of the guys behind me, they were not running as much virtual energy, so I was thinking, what strategy are these guys running? You've got one guy on 39%, another guy on 80%, and that's a big difference. So I was trying to calculate in my head, what exactly are these guys doing with the strategy, because they're definitely not doing the standard strategy where you just run the car to as much laps as you can and then pit and refuel and go to the end. I was thinking these guys are trying something different, and as I said, I've not really watched anyone's full race around this track, so I don't know exactly how this race was going to go. But you know, early on the car felt good, the car felt pretty nice to drive actually, and I didn't really have too much complaints. I do love this circuit, man, and in terms of the difficulty, it's quite a tricky track because some corners just look the same. So sometimes you know you get lost where you are on track if you're not used to the track yet. I've been trying to do laps around here, trying to just feel out the new update. I feel like this track brings out the best and the worst in terms of if you want to feel the difference in the update, then come to Qatar and you will definitely feel where the car gets unloaded, and very, very easy to lose if you overdo it. But also, it's just a mega track, you know. So very, very interesting. You see the guys up ahead absolutely bolting right now. And I was like, yo, I know I'm not keeping up with them, but I was pulling away from the guys behind. I thought, okay, that's pretty decent. I'm heavier than them on fuel and virtual energy, so, you know, if I'm pulling away, it's a good sign. And early on, you know, the McLaren definitely felt good. I remember back in the day, the McLaren used to be very, very good on tires as well. So that was one of the reasons why I thought I would take it. I thought maybe the car will be pretty good on tires, and let's see if I can, you know, stay in the mix with the guys up in front if I just have much, much better tire wear, because I think track conditions were like 27, 28. It was pretty high. No, I think the air condition was like 27, 28. Track condition was seriously high, so it was like, wow, gonna have to do well to keep your tires intact, and that was sort of the main goal. I knew it was gonna be very hard to keep up. I think the Lambo is insanely fast around here, plus a lot of people have been perfecting setups. I haven't really perfected any setup. I've just made changes to make it safe to drive, but I haven't actually gone in and tried to build a specific setup to get the fastest possible lap time around this circuit yet. So that's probably what I'll be doing this week. So if you guys keep a lookout on my Patreon, I'll be dropping some new setups on there. So if you guys are not part of my Patreon, make sure you jump on. And yeah, lads, I'm telling you, when you do make certain changes, the update does feel 10 times better. It does, a lot of it does depend on your setup, man. And I feel like the default setups are probably going to have to be reworked to make sure that they're in a safe window, because I personally believe that what might end up happening is whichever car is the most stable, that's the car you're going to see the majority of people jump into once the fixed setups are working again. And then you might end up with a grid of similar cars kind of thing. Right now, where the setups are open, that's why you're getting more people choosing different cars. I say more people choosing different cars when you see out of the top 8, there's only 2 cars that's not a Lambo, and you kind of expect that when there's a new car, but I do believe the Lambo is pretty handy around this circuit, and I was probably finding it out the hard way. Now Hans has got past the person that was in front of him. Now he's closing us down, catching us pretty quickly, and I was like, yo, these Lambos on race pace, they look insane. But I was aware that obviously he was lighter on fuel. He did quality behind me as well, so our pace was probably not too dissimilar, but still, I hadn't really had the experience of watching this race yet and figuring out what everyone was doing on strategy, so it was going to be a little bit of a tough one. Now, coming up to the end of lap 5, you can see we've been completely closed down by the Lambo behind. The leaders ahead have absolutely got off, and yo, I was like, my pace is absolutely dying, you know. At the moment, really struggling to keep pace with the guy behind me. He was about 4 tenths quicker on the last lap, and he was gaining on me, and I was thinking maybe I'm running too much downforce, because I seem to be getting absolutely murdered down the straight. So I didn't actually change the downforce too much from default, so that's probably one of the main reasons why. And yeah, the car was getting just a little bit understeery, and we was only on lap 6, and already the leaders are 6 and 7 seconds ahead, so they're pretty much a second lap quicker, absolutely bolting. And now I was under pressure from the Lambo behind. You could just see he's able to just carry more speed through the corners, and he almost goes into the back of us there and has to back off. And on the exit of the corners, you've got these little gravel traps, and once you dip your wheel into there, it does knock some of your momentum. And yeah, he was just faster everywhere right now. And to be honest, honestly, at this point, I'd actually forgotten that he was lighter on fuel. I just got into race mode and just thought, wow, this guy is so much quicker. There's no chance I'm holding him behind, because he's carrying so much more speed through the corners. And because I haven't experienced being like right up behind someone around this track, I don't know how the aerial wash is. I don't know what the understeer is like when you're behind someone. So I haven't experienced that yet, because the leaders literally just got off from the word go. And yeah, it was it was hard for me to understand, but I wasn't sure whether that McLaren is just not that quick, or whether my setup is just not that great, which is probably not. I didn't really do that much work. I literally just changed like the packers, and gave it a bit of front ride height just so it can stay safe. Pretty much left the rest of it, and yeah, you can see we're just completely under pressure. He tries to brake late around the outside, we hold a tight line, try and get on the throttle, but now you're gonna see the difference in straight line, and this is where I knew, like, yep, I'm pretty sure people are running the setup, because he was definitely a lot quicker than me down the straight, and I've gone to the inside to defend. You can see he's all over us, and I thought, bro, this guy, I'm gonna struggle to beat this guy. And I run wide into turn one. He does the cut back underneath us. We try to get our foot down, but he's already cut underneath us and got in front, and now we've got the hypercars coming through at the worst possible time, so I couldn't even stick with him to see if I could keep up and to see what the air wash was like, because already the hypercars coming through, and you know, around a track like this they're going to be pretty ruthless, and I was just starting to get understeer even without being behind someone. And this is when I knew, like, bro, don't know if I've made the right choice in setup here, and I don't even know if I've made the right choice in car, because the understeer was just getting insane. I was looking like, yo, I'm losing so much time, and I was thinking, is it tires? Is it really this bad on tire wear? So I actually started contemplating, okay, in the pit stop, should I actually change tires? And I never normally change tires in a, you know, a 40-minute race, never. I don't even change tires in an hour-long race, but the understeer and the time loss that we were getting was pretty severe. I think I'm gonna do another one of these races and maybe try a different setup, or I might go with a different car just to see what the drop-off is, but the drop-off seemed pretty severe in the McLaren, and I was just struggling everywhere. You can see how much he's just getting away, literally like we're in two different classes, completely just pulling away. And even when I wasn't making mistakes, I just could not get the car to turn in. But at the same time, you've still got that jeopardy of, you know, if you rag the wheel too hard, if you turn the wheel too hard, then the car's just gonna snap and you're gonna be backwards. So it's definitely added a layer of difficulty as I get sent by another hypercar up the inside. But yeah, it's definitely added another layer of difficulty. Knowing how hard you can push once the tires start to wear can be extremely difficult. But I did a 202.5 that lap, which is abysmal, and the guy in front of me did a 201 flat, so he's over 2 seconds faster. And even though I did get lapped by traffic, so did he, so the pace was just not there. And then again, this is when I looked up and I saw the fuel. Okay, he's on 29%. I was doing a pretty good job on the fuel actually, because at the start me and the leaders were on the same amount of fuel, and you can see they've used quite a lot more, so I wasn't doing too bad on fuel consumption, doing pretty well. But it doesn't matter how well you're doing on fuel if you just have zero pace. And right about now I was losing the podium, and I wasn't even sure what this guy was doing on strategy, but the pace difference was so big, it didn't even matter at this point. I thought this guy's just gonna get off because he's so much quicker than me at the moment, and literally I could do nothing about it. Believe me, I was trying, lads. It just weren't happening. So coming towards the end of lap 10, you can see Hans in front has jumped into the pit lane. He managed to open up like a 7-second gap in those few laps, so he's jumped into the pit lane. And I was thinking, like, bro, what type of strategy is this guy running? Because he's pitted extremely early, so his virtual fuel refill is going to be quite a lot longer than what mine will be. And I was contemplating on whether I should or shouldn't change tires, because lads, the pace drop off was insane. I can't even tell you how much time I was starting to lose, and I was actually starting to like lose concentration a little bit. I kept driving around and misjudging corners because I thought it was different parts of the lap, and that's something I haven't really experienced before on any other track. But with this track being so flat and everywhere kind of just looks the same, I was just starting to get a little bit mesmerized by some of the corners, like thinking, hold on a second, am I slowing down too much for this corner? Is this the right corner? It actually happened to me quite a lot during the race. You'll see sometimes I'll be well off the pace, and then another lap I'll be almost like 9/10 quicker, just because, you know, I was locked in that lap. But the Ferrari in front of us has a little spin. Luckily enough, he gets going before we're able to catch him in a difficult spot. The leader's absolutely flying. So Hans now is about 54 seconds behind us, 88% worth of fuel. So he's definitely had a serious refill, and obviously he started light, so his pit stop is going to be much longer. And I was literally just contemplating, do I change tires or do I not? You know, in my head I was thinking, if I pit now and change tires, will I be faster to the end of the race? But then, you know, I'm only going to be pitting with about 6 laps to go. So if that extra 12 seconds, will I be 2 seconds a lap faster for 6 laps? And I don't know, it was a tight one, you know, it was tight, but you have to factor in that, you know, track position. It's all well and good pitting for tires, but if you lose track position, then that freedom to set those fast lap times is going to be gone. And I kind of didn't want to risk that, didn't want to risk getting into a battle, getting into a crash and those things. So I thought, you know what, I'm probably just going to stick it out on the tires, man. I'm probably just going to stick it out to the end. It was definitely tough. And for me personally, I've never had this drop off in tires. This was insane. And I think this is why this track will be one of the better tracks for racing and strategies and stuff, because, you know, so much can change the direction in the way the race is going. You can choose to stick it out, or you can genuinely choose to change tires. And I feel like the difference is probably pretty close. So it's going to be interesting. The next time I do this race, I think I'm going to pit and I'm going to take tires and see what the pace difference will be, see what I'm able to do at the end of the race. I do feel like that is the more aggressive strategy. That is the racer strategy. But if you want to, you know, try and keep calm, try and keep a steady lap time, which I haven't managed to do in this race, then, you know, the no tire change will probably be the way for you. But it's very interesting that in this race you can run a few different strategies. Now, as you can see, we still had 14%. The leaders had used up 7% more than me throughout the duration of the first stint of the race, which is pretty cool on our behalf. I'm not sure if the McLaren just solid on fuel around here, but I was like, okay, so that's gonna, you know, get us a few seconds back in the pit stop. And yeah, but as you can see, Hans is he's about 58 seconds behind us, but he does appear to be in clear air. He's about 10 seconds behind Kryptic. And I was thinking, okay, so sorry, not 10 seconds, about 20 seconds behind Kryptic. So I'm thinking maybe he must have pitted, maybe. And the leader now pits as well, so I can tell by how far these guys will be ahead whether they have changed tires or not. I believe they're around about 20 seconds in front before the pit stop. So if they come out, you know, closer to me than that, or if they come out like about 15 seconds and I know that they did change tires, so that would be interesting. But for us, we were just definitely set on just literally doing a no tire change, even though I kept thinking about it. You could actually see my hesitation in the MFD of what to do, but I don't know, man. It was very difficult decision, and I do love races like this, man. I hope that there is a way that you can, you know, set your car up to really save tires and maybe sacrifice speed. And you know, that's one of the things I'm interested in, like in terms of the setup. Is there benefits to running a higher downforce setup, maybe keeping your tires in for longer, sacrificing maybe ultimate pace, ultimate speed? I would love to see that implemented. At the moment, I still feel like, you know, most of the time low downforce setups were just always quicker. But over a race distance, I would love to see if you run the higher downforce setups, you lose speed, but then your tire degradation, just your traction is improved. So I'd like to see something like that. At the moment, not sure if that's the case, but I believe this will be our in-lap, only 5% left. The guy behind us actually doing pretty well on fuel as well. And you can see Kryptic is about 6 seconds behind the overall leader. So did he change a couple of tires? I believe he probably changed 2 tires, which would have taken him around about 6 seconds, as he was right behind the leader. Unless, you know, he's just added too much fuel, and he did add around about 6-7% more than the guy that's in the lead. So maybe that's where he lost some of his time, but I still wasn't sure. But I pit in, my pit stop is going to be roughly about 20 seconds. So let's see how we come out in conjunction with Hans, the guy that we were racing earlier. So out we come out of the pit lane, and you can see that the guy who's in the lead has actually got a stop and go penalty for running out of virtual energy. So he must have changed his fuel ratio and seen that he had more fuel than virtual energy and thought he could just continue, because if you normally run out of virtual energy, it normally means you're about to run out of fuel. But I'm pretty sure he must have changed his fuel ratio, added to it, and able to still drive around, but gets the stop and go penalty because he's run out of virtual energy, which is what's basically used to BOP the car, so no car can go over a certain distance. And he's basically broken the rules there, so he's gonna have to take a unfortunate stop and go penalty. But Kryptic is only 15 seconds ahead, so he definitely, I believe he definitely changed tires. And Hans is about 7.5 seconds behind, so I think what he did is, obviously with the lighter fuel load, he probably had to add more, and he may have well also changed tires as well. So he was probably going to be bearing down on us in these last 11 minutes of this race. And yeah, as I said, I didn't change tires, so I knew my tires, they were cooked. There was literally nothing we could do, and he was a lot faster than us before the pit stop. But now we were going to see how much of that was just a lighter fuel load and how much of that was just, you know, his car and he was just driving better. So now we will see. But on this outlap, we're still managing to hold the gap around 7.2. So I thought maybe he was just lighter and it was allowing him to be quicker, and maybe the pace would just level out. I was hoping that after the pit stops that we'd generally have better pace, because we really started to fall away towards the middle part and the end of the first stint. So I could see that the gap wasn't really coming down. And if you look at the fuel, I had way less fuel than these guys, and I was positive that, you know, the race was only going to lap 20, so I knew I had enough. So I was thinking, why is everyone over fueled so hard? And is it me that, am I the only one that has quick math? I'm not too sure, but yeah, for me personally, I thought my fuel was okay, but it was kind of making me doubt myself a little bit when I was seeing how much fuel everybody else had, you know. And the guy in 8th, I was like, bro, if I'm light, then he's cooked, because he only had 35%, and I wasn't sure if that was going to get you to the end. But you can see already we're half a second down in our lap time, and it was the same story, man. I couldn't find any pace. But the leaders as well, if you look at their fastest laps, they were quite a bit well down on their fastest laps too. So I knew at least that the leader had not changed tires, but of course they were already so much faster, man. I've got to try the Lambo in a race just to see how fast it actually is, because even when I tried the Lexus the other day on stream, I made just a couple of clicks to it, and you know, with very little knowledge of the track or how it drives in this game, I was able to pretty much match the time I did in quali in the McLaren, which obviously I've been, you know, trying out the circuit for a few days now. So it's very interesting. I have the feeling that the newer cars do hold an advantage, and it's going to take some very hard work to get cars like the McLaren to be up to speed. But you know, it was still fun to drive. Definitely, you know, I felt the stability was there. Only when the tires started going off did I start feeling like, oh, I could possibly lose the car here. But other than that, it was good, man. It was very understeery, but you know, when your tires are going off, you have to expect that kind of thing. And yeah, I just felt like, okay, maybe I might be able to hang on. But you can see the gap now coming down, really coming down now. Last lap at 201.9. Let's see what Hans behind us manages to do, because yeah, he does a 2-minute 9, a whole second faster. So now I thought, yeah, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. He's coming, and there's not really much I can do, because my pace, as I said, I was struggling to do anything out there. I was literally just holding on, and maybe I was starting to think maybe his strategy might be the better strategy. Maybe that's the way to go. And as I said, no experience doing this race before, so wasn't really sure what to expect. But it is, the track conditions are very, very vicious. It is pretty hot, so it's not really a surprise that we're struggling on tires. But I just feel like the drop-off was bigger than what I would normally expect for myself. Maybe the McLaren's just not a great car on tires anymore, even though it used to be. But keep on pushing, see where we can get to. see how long we could hold him off for, but at the pace that he was catching us, it was going to be pretty difficult to stop him from getting by. But we kept on pushing, and this section through here, love it so much. This is my favorite section of the racetrack. Again, too wide, managed to cut back in, but probably not the fastest line. And as you can see, we're still being caught. So nothing I was doing was working. It was literally just survival of the fittest. And you can see we go into the gravel there, and it really does knock your momentum when you do that. It gets dirt on the tires, and then for the next corner you can feel the car slide a little bit because your tires are still dirty. Hypercars, of course, sending it down the inside, but to be honest, they weren't too bad in this race, and for the most part, a lot of the corners they can just go around you, man. But yeah, the guy behind us, he actually wasn't lapping that much slower than Kryptic. Kryptic did a 2:06 the last lap, and Hans before this did a 2:09, so he was only 3/10 off the leader's pace. And look at the gap coming down. I do a 2:02.5, even slower. And yeah, Hans does a 2:01.0, 1.5 seconds faster. So I was like, yep, my goose is absolutely cooked. So now we're on lap 19, and I look up in the top right corner. I'm like, hold on a second. I swear it said the race is only 20 laps, and now it's going to 21. So I'm looking like, yo, this might get a little tight on fuel. This ain't what we need to see. But I was thinking, bro, if the leader's on 17% and I'm on 15, surely I should make it. And you can still see Hans is still closing that gap behind us. And I thought, yo, do I have to start saving fuel as well? Because if I do, there's no doubt about it, I'm definitely gonna get caught. And yeah, but I thought, nah, surely not. So I started looking on the mini map to see where the leader was. I was like, yep, the leader of Hypercar should catch us again. So there's no way I'm doing 21 laps, no way. So I was just looking, I was thinking, come on leader, come on. But he wasn't too far, he was only a couple of corners behind us. So I knew by that time we'll definitely get caught by the Hypers and get lapped again. So our race would in fact be over. So we were coming on towards the last lap of our race, and the gap is just coming down, still coming down. And actually Hans, I believe he actually made a mistake, because he got the gap down to about 4.5 seconds, and then it went back up to 7 seconds. So I feel like he made a mistake, or probably got dive bombed by one of the Hypers, and he still closed the gap to us again. So the struggle that I had on race pace in this race is insane. I've never had it before. So not to this degree. Probably in the Corvette it's been pretty bad at times, but it was seriously bad in this race. So I thought, yo, this is insanity. Maybe the Lambo is very, very nice on tires, but I didn't feel like the McLaren would be particularly weak on tires. But again, it could have been set up. If you set your cars up wrong, you're gonna find out in the race. So we had about 10% virtual energy left. The leader was pretty much, leader of the Hypercars was pretty much right behind us now. So that was fine. I knew this would be the last lap of the race. 2.4 seconds. Just wanting the Hypercar to hurry up and pass me. Hurry up. And he manages to get through. Hans now gets the gap down to 2.3 seconds. And I started to think like, bro, if this guy hadn't have overfueled it by a good percentage, bro, he definitely would have been all over me right now, because the amount of fuel that he was carrying probably cost him about 3 or maybe 4 seconds in the pit lane. So yeah, very, very, very tight when it comes to strategy. And you know, this is one of the great things about LMU. You have to get your fuel right when you do these races. It's imperative to get your fuel and virtual energy absolutely spot on, because if not, it's just going to cost you so much time. But I was so happy this was the last lap. I was so happy, because if it wasn't, we would have run out of fuel. And it says 20.9. That is something that you guys should know as well, is whenever you see your fuel, the lap estimator in the top right hand corner, whatever the first digits are, even if it says 20.8, it means you're only doing 20 laps. It never really goes over. So, you know, even if it says 20.9, you only need 20 laps worth of virtual energy. So a lot of people, they overcompensate, or they think, oh, let me just do this to be safe. You don't need to. Whatever it says, 20.7, 20.6, you need 20 laps. That's it. So yeah, but through the last corner now, the leaders would have to do another lap because they were too far in front to get lapped. So we come home in third place. We managed to get that podium in the McLaren. Hans was closing us down by a good second and a half at the end there, but we managed to stick it on the podium. So let's go. So we managed to get a podium, and guys, you guys already know, man, every time we get a decent result, every time we're in the top 3, it's time to get that celebration out. So it's Kryptic TNG, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell to catch my videos first. Now let's get that podium celebration.